Hello, I'm David Brown. I'm the chair of the College of Fellows of the International Neural Network Society. Today, I will be interviewing Dr. Harold Su. Dr. Su has been a champion of brain-style computing for many decades. He has served as founder, former president, board member, and fellow of the International Neural Network Society. Among his many honors and awards are the INS Gabor Award for outstanding contributions to neural network applications in information sciences and pioneer implementations of fast simulated annealing search, and the Eduardo R. Caianiello Award in 1999 from the Italian Neural Network Society. Dr. Su was made a foreign academician of the Russian Academy of Nonlinear Sciences in 1999 for his contributions to unsupervised learning based on homeostasis, a constant cybernetic brain temperature. SPIE awarded him with the Nanoengineering Award and the Biomedical Wellness Engineering Award. He's a fellow of numerous scientific and engineering societies, including the American Institute of Medicine and Bioengineering, the IEEE, the Optical Society of America, and the International Society for Optics and Photonics. He has over 300 publications, book chapters, and presentations, as well as 11 assigned patents. Well, thank you, Harold. You have an impressive resume.
Now, hasn't changed since then, though, however. That's okay. That's good enough.
My first question is, how did you get into the field?
Yeah, that I thought about, because the part of the reason is that the many directions make me enter in this field. I did not study neuroscientist. I did not study biology. I want to be a scientist in physics, the bona fide classical physics. In fact, I am looking for who in physics in Asian American, Taiwan, is the highest honor accomplishment. Of course, the famous Nobel Prize, T.D. Lee and Frank Yan, C.N. Yan. And then I look, who is their teacher? It turns out it's a teacher. You probably do not know him. However, his teacher is George Uhlenbeck. Then I look, what Uhlenbeck do? He's in the Michigan Ann Arbor those days. And his accomplishment is he discovered electron spin quantum number, 1/2 the quantum number. And he's a Michigan. So all my mind set up after my college, went to United States to study in Michigan. But I cannot get in Michigan Ann Arbor. So I get in Detroit, University of Detroit, which is just about an hour away from Ann Arbor. So I still can go to Michigan to meet George Uhlenbeck. Luckily, after my 2 years in Detroit, in physics, of course, I met a wonderful professor, but never mind his name. Then I realizing Uhlenbeck has retired from Ann Arbor, went to New York, Rockefeller University, a university I never heard before. Rockefeller University, one of those nameless universities in my mind. Okay, I did not know they are the #1 in biophysics, bioscience. And so I applied to New York. And of course, my goal is to see T.D. Lee, because he's at Columbia University. And when T.D. met me, he said, Harold, what do you mean? You mean George Uhlenbeck going to see you? He kicked me right out of Columbia. He said, go, go, go. Go to Midtown, went to Rockefeller. That's how I got into Rockefeller, interviewed by the president there. The president said that George said I have no time for me. My answer is, I don't need a degree. Teach me how to be creative. I can get Nobel Prize. The president never met a young man with such ambition and vision. While I went back to Columbia to finish my Columbia deal, he immediately asked secretary, call Columbia, say, we accept Harold to be our first foreign student. So I got into the Rockefeller University. It's a university, has no examination. It's a British style. They have 700 faculty, only 110 students, and everyone for MD, PhD. I wasn't meant to go for MD, but I got in. I want to get a PhD from George Woolenbeck. The president appreciated my vision, ambition. So I was accepted. And then Woolenbeck said, all right, since President Bronk accepts you, I will try to keep you as long as I did not, because he wanted to write his memoir. He retired, he wanted to settle down there. And as such, I become a last PhD student of George Woolenbeck. After 6 years, actually 5 years and 1 year postdoctor, I went to Chapel Hill, start my teaching career, and then went to New York Naval Research Lab as an intra-government exchange from Chapel Hill to federal government. It is there I begin my get to this field, because my Neural Network Society was created while I was at the Naval Research Lab. You know, John von Neumann got a neural network Naval Research Lab to develop the first computer. So Naval Research Lab is very known, encouraged, develop a new thinking in computation. I wasn't just bumped into that neural network. I was conduct experiments at the Naval Research Lab. It's a long ago, I can tell you about. Essentially looking in the Los Angeles Harbor, we have a semi-submissive, it's not submarine, semi-submissive, which is no ocean, very noisy, acoustic cannot detect. Radar cannot penetrate the water. Optical have a limitation, limited depths. And yet, there is a semi-submissive light go through it. I was on the P3 airplane. My eye sees it. But all my computer work, AI computer work, whatever it is, do not detect it. It's cost about $1 million at the Naval Research Lab, because you have conduct the whole experiments with it. If I'm a Japanese, I will come my stomach open, commit suicide. But my wife said, wait a minute, did you say your eyes see it? Then why don't you study how could your eyes see and all your sensor cannot see? That's how I study human eye. From there, I formed to the cortex 17 and understand every mechanism those days about human eye. And then to compute it, they had to use neuron to do that computation. And that isn't that artificial neural network? And that's the beginning. I look into computational approach to the visual image processing. And it's a deep learning, layer by layer by layer. First layer, on central off surround, so you get edge information. And then second layer from on edge off surround to see how the edge connect together. Then you compute the next order differences will be the curvature, and so on and so forth. Eventually get isolated object as how human eye in the back of the head processing the whole thing. And that's the beginning of deep learning. Multiple layer. It's artificial neural network. That's how I got into the field.
And since those times, what do you believe are your most significant accomplishments?
I think that my main accomplishment, looking back, is not so much simulator, leading fast simulator, all that. I think I really thinking my accomplishment is that I pass on this creativity, which is the thing I did not tell you how can one teach people more creative, right? That's how I was told. It is, you told Rockefeller president Bronk. He said, if I learn creativity, why do I need anything else? That I trained all my PhD thesis students. It's a royal Dutch trade secret. They don't tell public. They only tell their thesis student. And I pass on to 18 PhD students. I so far have trained 18, probably plus one more PhD students, while I was moonlighting teaching at the college, university in the night, while daytime working in federal government. So this is, I think, my accomplishment is not so much in, I will tell you, in science area and so forth. Yeah, when you talk the rest of the work there. But I looking back, is I have changed young people's mind. Then they look the things with the courage and with hypothesis. That is something make them believe themselves and could try to create out of nothing. Even fail, so what? And that is, I think, right now, what I try to say, the 18 young people, they carry on my thinking and courageously move on in whatever field they are doing. It doesn't matter what field. I think that to me is the most important lifelong accomplishment. Not so much I did this, I did that. That you can look at the publication. I don't even want to tell you over this review.
You seem to be still active. So what are you working on now?
Yes, I want to write down, instead just teach 18 graduates. I want to write down how one become more creative. Can this be taught? I'm writing a book about this. It's already finished several chapters now. I think that's important, is to leave this thing behind, because I'm not really a professional teacher. I'm no longer, 18 is a lot of student into a PhD, because that is 40 years in my federal laboratory work while moonlighting trained. I'm come to last phase of my life. I want to leave this behind. It's a mankind knowledge. It's come from my George Uhlenbeck. He passed away also, and many teachers at the Rockefeller University. We have a mass physics central in the New York Rockefeller University, and I learned so much from them. I want to extract those out with example, not philosophy. Philosophy, who cares? Young people don't care philosophy, but they care. Tell me the procedure, and I will tell you the procedure. It is not abstract to the level that cannot be comprehended and cannot be practiced. So I think that is right now I'm doing is right. What is the procedure to enhance boosting one's creativity? And what's the step approach that? Make it explicit. Explicit, of course, create a lot of exemplar from history. Doesn't have to be my own work. Anyone's work satisfy those principles. I can recount it. For example, I'll give you one so you know it's not abstract. Why Wright brother invented flying plane, airplane? Da Vinci in Italy, they did not create an airplane. It's the United States Wright brother in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, North Carolina beachside. Of course, the reason Da Vinci Renaissance, the technology is not ready. Wright brother using bicycle. Those days have no bicycle. And realizing they walk through the alley, two alley, wind blows so much, everything flow up. So they build an airplane. It's a two alley, turn 90 degrees. And the wind goes through, become fast speed. Then the pressure reduces, then air flow them up. To increase that fast speed, they use bicycle wheel by pedaling down the mountain. So you see, things like that, it's innovation. So creativity start find first the shortfall. You look at birds flapping the wing. You don't build an airplane with flapping wing. That's what Da Vinci tried to do. It did not work. They did a fixed plan. So innovation is find their gap. If there's a gap, then you fill in values. And that's the step toward creativity. That's the book I'm writing. There are many examples I can tell you, including Thomas Edison, how Thomas Edison invented light bulbs. Many historical, Greek days, Roman days. It's not for me to broadcast this here now, but the question is, that's what I'm doing. I try to summarize my lifelong experiences, how to be creative. You don't jump to creativity one step. You identify gap, fill in value, and then push the gap to the future called the shortfalls, then develop more things. So it is step by step through discovery and then create. And then creativity also different in individual and group creativity. So there's a lot to write about. Particular group creativity is very important. Because right now, no research is not done by group. Individual can no longer, because too complex, science, technology, too complex. You need really a team work together. How make a team work together? Like 1 + 1 bigger than 2. Usually, if you don't have a team leadership, 1 + 1 be less than 2, or even become negative. No, I'm just kidding. So those the skill, human skill. You also need to educate younger generation.
I want to change gears a little bit here.
Sure.
You were right there at the beginning of the INS.
Yeah, I can tell you.
The INS begun.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a question I actually mentioned to other interview too, because that's exactly 30 years ago, 1988. So a lot of people, a lot of curious, how did the neural network society? First of all, in 1987, before the year before 88, I was get the DARPA funding. Because I work federal government lab, so it's very easy to get DARPA funding to run a workshop. In fact, I remember the place, the Leesburg Xerox International Education Center. It's a place like Gordon Conference. Everybody spend time there. You don't go out. You eat there. You sleep there. And in fact, they allow you publish or not. Probably they do. This was supported by SPIE, Advanced Technology. But there's a book called Optical Hybrid Computing. The book I added, and that book. In that meeting, Stephen Grossberg, my classmate at the Rockefeller University, he's my senior, 1 year or 2 year senior classmate at the Rockefeller University. See, so Rockefeller does train a lot of good people. Steve was there too. So is Carpenter, his wife. And many people are there. I don't want to mention the name, and some of them, it's begun. About 50 of us. At the night, we have a banquet, and then we discuss. A lot of people said, we wish have a more regular meeting like a Leesburg educational meeting. And then privately, Steve pulled me over on the side at the night. Harold, we should form a society so we can meet us annually. And he made me first secretary and treasurer. He, of course, make himself president. And that's the beginning of international. I incorporated Washington, D.C. I know that. Right? Because those days we don't have money. And then I used Naval Research Lab, credit union as our accountant there. One intern, Joe Landa, still here. He helped me on that. And then Frank Pokenhop, he retired, left. He the one more senior in the age-wise. He showed me how to deposit money into the Naval Research. I'm the number 5 membership. I don't want to be first, because in Asia, first is dangerous. You get killed. Superstition anyway. So I make it myself 5th one. And many people remember the history about the INS membership. We run all the way to work, few thousand members those days. And then, we have a San Diego meeting, then Boston meeting, and so on and so forth. So it is, to me, the beginning is we accidentally from a workshop, we move on to an annual one. But for me to get INS begin is really become my failure. I already told you in the semi-submissive, I cannot see my eye can see. So I realizing this computation is important for the society, important for whatever thing we do. So when Steve want to make this formula, I just go for it. And so that is several my failure of early experiments and realizing brain style computing is important. And then success of the meeting in the Leesburg Xerox International. That book is available, Optical Hybrid Computing, added Harold Su, and the one more scientist, which is SPIE official person. So two of us. And then in that meeting, we did recall the Stephen Grossberg conversation said we want to have this regularly. So those are the historical, if you're really looking at my personal is my failure, my success is the meeting people want to have a more frequent. So that's how I think INS speaking. And then of course, Bernie Whittle doesn't like Stephen Grossberg, sorry by saying now, but I think everybody knows that. Stephen a little bit more dictatorship. Sorry by saying that, Steve will forgive me. Because it is that Bernie want to take over. And next year, he really incorporate the whole thing in California. So INS maybe on the records incorporated in California, but reality is incorporated in Washington, D.C. We have a tax record in the early days. But part of the reason Bernie took over and then Bernie want to make sure no president runs more than 2 years. So that forced the Stephen step down, and then Bernie take over, and then Bernie make sure next few one will follow the law, no more than 2 years. So that is a very short history of INS. But the key, I think, is everyone contribute something into the society. Steve contributed adaptive resonance theory, and Bernie Whittle I would say contribute to the multiple layer learning, although he did not quite do so-called deep learning. However, he did do multiple layer. Yes. Bernie Whittle and I teach in 1988 in UCLA, short course. He and I continue to teach for almost 10 years. I remember clearly, and he probably still remembers. Because those days, computation neural network become so hot topics. People would spend $1,000 tuition, just want to learn what it is all about. And part of my reputation boosted because of that UCLA short course. And where Bernie and I started.
Well, that's for the early days.
Yeah.
What about the present time?
What
role should INS play moving ahead into the future?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. I think I would say INS, the future should be just like our original onset. We want to be international, interdisciplinary, and we should still maintain that interdisciplinary international facilitator. INS should be a facilitator, not be a library or not be a running conference only. We should empower younger people. We should empower senior people. We should international able to exchange their knowledge and information. Yeah, so I think the journal, what you guys do is an excellent idea of this journal. Even now it's continued. Thank you, I received it. I received because you don't want to tell them I should receive. I received. I did flip through, and my personal will not write those long 20, 30 page long article. Because usually research scientists are very busy. They have to support financial funding from the funding agency. So those two long papers, the value may not be there. That's only my biased person, because I involve federal government all the time. We often have to review, including National Science Foundation or workers there, have to review people's proposal contribution. So we are on the third party, so to speak. There's a direct involved with that, like DABA program and so on. So I would say INS future should more encourage education component. Yes, I agree, current president very much want to extend the commercial entity with INS. That's good. I have no qualm about that. You know, commercial, INS should work commercial industry. Cool, good. But we should not forget we are really the education institution. We should write somehow in early days, there is a column in this journal, very short one, for young people to write about. What is the highlights? What are they? Right now, those no longer in this book. They are very good stuff. I'm not saying anything bad about it, okay? But the question is, what's the true secret of those knowledge that young people can learn from educational component? If I were the editor-chief of that, right now I know the three editors, I all know them. They should really encourage submission of those kind of short introduction, broaden the field to the busy scientist. Then the value of the journal will be much higher. Yeah, you do want, once you're in the field, you want to be more detailed like the journal provides. But if you are not into the field yet, in fact, your next question will talk about that you really require someone open the door for you. If INS cannot be the door opener, who will be? Not IEEE. I tell you, IEEE has different characteristics. I'm an IEEE fellow, so I know precisely what it is. And Donald Wongxing interviewed me about it from IEEE viewpoint too. He's an IEEE historian. The IEEE is unfortunately suffer from since Maxwell, nothing new. Biology is different. Every day is new. Neural network have a rich minefield one can tap into. IEEE, very little they can tap. They can only tap into lower geometry, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, away from 3 dimension, or so-called nanotechnology. They can do faster computer, FPGA type thing, but they are limited. So their journal publication, I'm not disqualified. Their journal publication has been a lot of laborious work, tables, how many thousand work you study sample, then they publish you. So their journal, transaction journal, is quite different. You have to be deep down in their field in order to contribute to their IEEE transaction. You just have to work hard on it. INS is different. If you can relay some breakthrough in biology into some computation, you're done. And there are a lot of breakthrough, even include the vaccine development, current coronavirus vaccine development. There are many corner points that require computation to help. I will mention one example, maybe you sort of ask INS role. I think the role in short should take more educational responsibility on our shoulder to introduce the new field in biology or neuroscience. If you really want to, what new field, I can throw you in one which I is looking into with one of my last PhD students at the Catholic U America. You know, in our body, neurons communicate by ions, electrical current. Our body communicate by chemical signal, which we call hormones, Well, I give you one example. There are many hormones. Hormones is huge. It's pentagon, hexagon with a lot of side chain. That have no circuitry for it. They are open flow throughout the body. It's a receptor. They have a receptor, a horn receptor, determining where the communication are. So it's a tubeless communication in our body. If you want an example, I give you hypertension, hyperpressure. It's your heart as receptor. When your kidney, tiger is coming to you, kidney secretes certain chemical signal, hormone, that your heart will reach them and heart start beating fast in order running away. Then if you normal cases, you get hypertension because your heart beat too fast. Other than your blood vessel too stiff, not those are aging problems. Now the drug they take for hypertension is preoccupy the receptor on your heart. Then those kidney secrete one cannot attack your heart. So your blood pressure reduced. This sort of chemical communication by chemical hormone communication is not in our modeling. The chemical signal hormone is computationally important, but yet because it's a no while, so we don't know. We're so much limited by our thinking into electrical engineering. So we need open-minded in modeling that. So that who opened the door for this field? INNS through education component.
So the next question is,
Yeah.
what are people doing right and or wrong in the fields today?
In the AI, yeah, I have a strong opinion about that too, because I'm really much dealing as a teaching component. So I often examine those things. I think that what we're doing right is we study big data analysis. Big data, I mean, is you have many experimental data, but you need the computing it to extract information out of it. We're using AI to do. That's the absolute right direction. However, what we do wrong is we do supervised one. That human had to decide this is right, this is wrong. Hey, that label intensive when you're dealing with big data analysis become useless, no value added. So how would you do unsupervisedly in big data analysis? It's a direction AI should go into it. Nothing to do with chemical signal. What is unsupervised big data analysis? I can tell you early days, we all know, if you have certain data, say I have a Gaussian peak about certain symptom is a certain disease, and I have another Gaussian peak about certain symptom, which is there's no disease, the distribution. The overlapping of those two peaks, two Gaussian, the wing overlapping one. You have to, this is called the false alarm overlapping one, right? The false alarm, you have to separate into false positive versus false negative. False positive is a nuisance. You're not sick, but I say you're sick. It's a nuisance. But false negative, detrimental. You're sick, but I told you are not sick. You lost your time delay. So the big data analysis have to minimize false negative rates in this two Gaussian peak you can, because that we can, everybody computation can imagine. Now, if it's just that, the overall value is also very little. One need now, if you have multiple cases coming, every case you assume it, which case take as the mean value. So the Gaussian peak middle. And then you assign by experience the wings around it, the variance to it. Now you have many mountains, many windows, not just two. I easily say you can minimize false alarm negative rate. If I was dealing with so many one, that's the big data analysis. No success I have seen it if you want to do unsupervised. Because the current complexity in medical field, medical diagnosis field. They do need a computer help, but computer, unless humans have smart, mathematics smartness, computer cannot help them. So I think doing right is we find the application now. We a lot of money is there, not just medicine. Investment is the same. You want to invest in the stock market? No, I don't need to convert that to any other application. You can imagine that. Any pros and cons application, they all want the computer help, right? And then the false alarm, false negative rate is always there. And then that's a two cases simple. If a multiple case you are facing, you don't know how to handle, and even your computer cannot help you either if you don't know how to handle. So I think what's wrong and what's right is that wrong is supervised one, right is unsupervised one. But unsupervised one would be right or wrong really is a manpower saving, okay, financial saving, all the reasons. There's no other ethic judgment. And even that field is for multiple dimensional data. Two dimension, relative simple, multiple dimension data. I have not seen any of those journal articles provide a direction, to solve this problem. I do read them, not that you gave me the journal, I do scan through it. And so, so difficult to judge right and wrong. The question is the value. If the value of neural network add to the society, that is the right thing to do.
That's very good, Harold.
Mm-hmm.
Final question would be, what advice would you give for a researcher just starting out in the field?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I really think education is a very important component that INS should on our shoulder. We should really put our thought together. I think for young people, if I had trained a young PhD student from Catholic, his name was Jeff Jenkins, the last one. He's still on his last thesis writing it. That I would say go out, don't immediately make money. To go out to work in a best laboratory that you're interested in, maybe Harvard, maybe Stanford, maybe anywhere. Go out, be collaborator of their technician, do whatever they are doing. You jump on the shoulder of the giant and then move on. Work hard on it. Because those people had a lot of experience already in that field that you're interested in. They can guide you in their assignment to you to do, hey, go clean this, that, go do so. From that service, you will learn so much into the heart of the real field. Don't try to struggle alone yourself. Right now, science cannot progress by one person. That day is gone. It's a team. At that team, usually lead a very old wise man there. And you should be a technician there, so to speak. Of course, you're a postdoctor, so nonetheless, right? Even technician is fine. Because that, to really hands-on working on those things, you really learn deep down than piece of paper, than piece of equation, a textbook. They need that hands-on experience.
Harold, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we close?
Yeah, I think if we may, through this interview, can bubble up you, me, and all other senior scientists at the INS Society to really put our head together to discuss how can we help younger generation in education component. particular Harold mentioned have a column in the journal, whether that's doable. And what's the benefit from financial viewpoint, from business viewpoint, from the overall education viewpoint, from the INS, because we do want INS to be flourish, right? Because INS has a one aspect that IEEE can never catch it, even though we are computational. We can bring in best biologist, best mathematician. But we have to serve that purpose, function. That is my really very enthusiastic accept your invitation to interview, because I always want to say that, Harold, now you are close to 78 years old. Oh. God give you enough time. What have you done? Yes, I trained 18 PhD students. Then one more is coming 19. And I teach at the Catholic U America as another regular teacher, research ordinary professor. It's because, you know, Catholic U is a pontificate university. Pope Francis will visit you. John Paul also visited you long ago. The part of the reason is that at school, people went in usually because commitment on religious commitment. So they usually could be very good in science. They just don't want to go to Harvard. Some of them are because they are diehard Catholic. And so though you may find a good student, bright student, and if you can convert your duty, realizing on their shoulder duty is to serve mankind, not just for themselves. Because your honor and your value will come as you serve others. You know, all my honor, you say, Harold, what happened? Why would a Russian give you a commission? Not I want. I never do anything for Russian. Russian president told me that only reason we give to you is because you are succeed on interdisciplinary area. Your physics, you go into biology, and you succeeded there. We want Russian academicians learn from you. Russians are very good in math, medical physics, chemistry, and everything, biology even, but they never cross discipline. So you are the role model for us. It was in the St. Petersburg. My wife went with me. My son also went there with me. And because it's a great honor to me, I got a lot of fellows, 5 fellows. Fellow to me is sort of, I just did a service for the society. They honor me. Academician, I did nothing for this society, but because my interdisciplinary accomplishment, they consider it's a good role model. So if I can be a role model to younger scientists, I'll be happy to it. Don't limit to, you know, the differences in physics. You try to look at the system viewpoint. Biology, you look component viewpoint. If component add the system, it will be very powerful one. I can tell you one of my best friends at the Rockefeller, student like I am. Mark Kirshner, he's right now is a Harvard Medical School system biology chairman. Because he believed the idea I just said, biology combined with system, physics, math is a system, consistency system. That will be tremendous power we can add to it. Likewise, neural network society should extend the succeed of components into a broader envelope. Yeah, you may fail when you broaden about you're not allowed to, or you find it doesn't apply. That's fine. But if you succeed, that's the creativity. So
Harold, thank you very much for agreeing to the interview, and thank you for your brilliant career.